ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. Of course, today is a wonderful Thursday and we are going to share with you with more news from this region. So first off, of course, on the issue regarding on Rohingya, which is kind of like I would say a no-go word when it comes to the Burmese government. So apparently, Burma may boycott the Trafficking summit over the use of the name of Rohingya. So does Myanmar deserve to be in ASEAN? I mean, after how many years, almost a decade, Myanmar being inside ASEAN, trying to somehow squeeze themselves to be accepted in this regional grouping, they seem to have another standard of seeing how ASEAN ought to be. And when it comes to human rights, to them is, well, we want to do it our own way, and you don't have to bulge with their own internal politics. It's what the kind of feeling that people have been getting about the Burmese government. So apparently the Burmese government is likely to attend a regional summit to address human trafficking, according to a report by the Associated Press, though a presidential spokesperson warned that Burma could still decide to boycott the meeting if it references Rohingya. Thailand invited representatives of Burma, Malaysia and Indonesia on the May 29th summit to discuss resolving an ongoing migrant and refugee crisis in the Andaman Sea and Malacca Straits, which I think everyone would have knew by now what had happened on the issue regarding on the boat people crisis, that the international press has been covering this over and over again, and a lot of people are saying that ASEAN is a failure and unable to resolve transnational issues, especially regarding on migrant and refugee crisis. While on the other hand, you have a Burmese government that does not recognize Rohingya as a distinct ethnic group. They often refer Rohingya to a name that is of a lesser appeal and a bit insulting as well. They call them as the Bengali instead of the Rohingya, and see them as part of the Bangladeshi ethnic groups rather than as part of the Myanmar community that has been living there for decades or years and years. For living there for centuries. So instead of then, they are also implying them instead of also not recognizing them as part of Rohingya, they are also implying this group of people as illegal immigrants. President's Office Director Zote, also known as Mu Zo, told the Irrawaddy during a phone interview that the accepting use of the term would falsely represent the Burmese government position on this particular issue. So if Burma would be boycotting this human trafficking summit, there's a huge possibility that other Southeast Asian countries would not be happy about this, because I think internal politics within each country in Southeast Asia are usually not up to their own neighboring countries to comment about it. Even if they comment, usually they will comment discreetly. But in the case of Myanmar, it has gone so bad that it's affecting the whole of Southeast Asia. Individual countries such as Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and other countries that are closer to Myanmar are feeling the heat of these refugees and immigrants. Well, what we are seeing right now is Burma not taking a strong stance on the human rights position of the Rohingya. Instead, they still insist that they want to leave their own internal politics to themselves. But is it even feasible? Because what we are seeing right now is Malaysia is not happy about it, definitely, and other countries such as Indonesia, even the Philippines are concerning about this, even though the Philippines is quite far away. But yeah, the recent story of Malaysia and Indonesia finally accepting these refugees shows that Malaysia is definitely in a desperate situation trying to fix its international image, while it needs to cooperate with Burma, and Burma needs to cooperate with ASEAN as a whole in order to address this issue or not. Is it even worth them being part of ASEAN? I think that's a question that ASEAN countries need to ask themselves during the next ASEAN meeting itself. But on the other hand, Burma stands ready to provide humanitarian assistance to anyone who suffered in the sea. This was the statement adding that preventive measures will be taken to prevent human smuggling and illegal migration. On the other hand, they let their Navy forces watch the area closely and rescue the migrants if they are found crossing the sea. This is what was being spoken by Zote as well. They are restricting migrants from traveling by boats. In the meantime, the government spokesperson also described the crisis as just a problem of human trafficking, distancing the crisis from a rash of violence in 2012 that cost about 140,000 people, mostly Rohingya, into isolated and underserved displacement camps. So what we are seeing right now is not just another human trafficking problem. They are not economic migrants or economic refugees. They are in fact political refugees if we are to see the situation that is plaguing them in this situation. On the other hand, Asia boat migrants rescued as nations hold emergency talk. This news was just yesterday was out. Apparently, what we are seeing that hundreds of Rohingya and Bangladeshi migrants have been rescued by fishermen off the coast of Indonesia, and local officials said that more than 370 migrants, including at least 50 women and children, have been at sea for weeks and weeks and were starving and dehydrated. The latest rescue comes as ministers from Thailand, Malaysia and Indonesia hold emergency talks in Kuala Lumpur on what is a growing humanitarian crisis that we can't stand still and keep quiet about it anymore. We cannot see this as just another human trafficking issue, because it's definitely not. So none of the countries have said it is prepared to take in the migrants, but they have to anyway. One of the rescued migrants, Ubedul Haq, told the Associated Press that they have been at sea for 4 months, that their engine was not working and the captain had fled. We ran out of food. We wanted to enter Malaysia, but we were not allowed. The standoff has left thousands of Bangladeshi economic migrants and Rohingya Muslim fleeing persecution in Myanmar stranded at sea. An unknown number have died, and those still on boats are living in poor condition with little food and water. And definitely they are weak and starving. This is according to local officials in Indonesia's East Aceh, saying that 102 migrants, including 26 women and 31 children, were rescued from one drifting boat overnight by fishermen. Another 272 were brought to shore early on Wednesday. It denies being to blame, but the foreign ministry released a statement on Wednesday saying that it shares concern and stands ready to provide humanitarian assistance to anyone who suffered in the sea. That was being said by all the 3 countries that were in the all the countries that were in the press conference yesterday. Another official that was saving some of the some of the refugees slash migrant immigrants. His name is Sadikin. He said that the second boat was spotted drifting some 40 miles offshore by fishermen who felt pity of them. We are giving first aid to these people. We are feeding them, giving them water, and providing a comfortable place for them. This is definitely not just a regional issue, but some are saying that it is definitely an international issue. More and more people migrating to neighboring countries for political reasons, not necessarily an economic. And we are seeing this trend going on not just in Southeast Asia, but also in Europe, where also there are attempts to stop the boat before they reach the shores of those developed nations. And of course, the infamous stop the boat policy in Australia, which the international community are not happy about. So what we are seeing right now, that the mounting international pressure on countries in the region to help the migrants, but it is difficult for them to find a simple solution, as none of them wants to open the floodgates to future waves of migration. Just a bit of facts about the Rohingya Muslim. They mainly live in Myanmar, largely in Rakhine State, where they are not considered citizens and have faced decades of persecution. Rights groups say that migrants feel they have no choice but to leave. Some even express that they would rather die in Indonesia or Malaysia than going back to their own country in Myanmar, where they will be rounded up in camps and being persecuted for no reason but other than being a part of an ethnic an ethnic Rohingya. So what we are seeing now, they would rather pay people smugglers to help them, and the UN estimates more than 120 Rohingyas have fled in the past 3 years. Also on board are economic migrants, mainly from Bangladesh, seeking for better lives. Traffickers usually take the migrants by sea to Thailand, then overland to Malaysia, often holding them hostage until their relatives pay ransoms. But Thailand recently began cracking down on the migrant routes, especially on the land routes bordering Malaysia and Thailand, meaning that traffickers are using sea routes now instead, often abandoning their passengers en route. So what we are seeing now is definitely a crisis that needs to be resolved ASAP. Anyway, we are going to take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on AEC and the issues regarding on the South China Sea.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene. You're listening to me back on the ASEAN Daily. So, the next news is about Jokowi. Students are calling on Jokowi to bring back fuel subsidy. Students of various universities under the Indonesia's Alliance Student Executive Body, or BEM, and others will urge the government to bring back the fuel subsidy in a rally to be held on Thursday, which is today, to commemorate the 1998 start of the reform era. They choose the issue as they have a direct impact on Indonesians. This was expressed by Ahmad Khairuddin Syam, the Student Executive Body, Indonesia Alliance Student Executive Body Coordinator at the press conference yesterday. The government did not allocate funds to subsidize premium gasoline in the 2015 state budget after President Jokowi abolished unproductive fuel subsidies, which amounted to 276 trillion rupiah, or equivalent to 21 billion US dollar in 2014, and reallocated the funds to infrastructure projects. The prices of premium and diesel fuel are evaluated and adjusted every month in accordance to the fluctuations in the rupiah exchange rate and international oil prices. The students have criticized the two issues, saying that they have resulted in Indonesians being deprived of access to the country's natural resources and unstable prices. That's very true. But at the same time, I'm questioning whether the protest itself would make any difference, or the urge itself would make any difference, because on one hand, you want to reduce the sufferings of people, especially in their daily routines. The price of fuel would be one of the key issue here. But at another hand, you also want to divert the excess funds from the fuel subsidy cuts to infrastructure projects. So I think Jokowi needs to definitely rethink its fuel subsidy cuts. Maybe not completely eliminate the fuel subsidy cuts, but to be selective in the fuel subsidies to make sure that more funds can be channeled to infrastructure projects. But at the same time, when it comes to the welfare of Indonesian society, it would not jeopardize it. So that's a fine line or a tightrope that Jokowi needs to walk on. On the other hand, we have Myanmar legislation on birth control, which he stated that birth controls are dangerous. The USA legislation on population control approved by Myanmar Parliament is dangerous and could undermine the democratic hopes of minority groups. Human Rights Watch say that the bill directs authorities to impose birth spacing restrictions. It would require a 36-month interval between each child and could allow forced contraception. The bill is the first of 4 government-backed bills to protect race and religion, quote unquote, of course. The legislation has been championed by activists with a racist and anti-Muslim agenda. Raka said women who have spoke out against the bill face sexual harassment and death threats, demonstrating the dangerous impact of what is happening right now. Racism is definitely rampant, and what's worse is being shown in all the different laws that has been legislated in the Myanmar governance. At the other hand, we go back to Malaysia. Malaysia ranked near bottom at the class of environmental democracy. Malaysia has been ranked poorly in environmental democratic rights, coming in 69th of 70 countries surveyed worldwide, scoring an overall 0.58 out of 3 points on the US-based World Resources Institute's Environmental Democracy Index, narrowly beating Haiti. It measures how well these laws are in giving the public information, allowing public inputs in decision making, and the seeking in enforcement of environmental laws and compensation for damages. Malaysia was giving poor marks in transparency and public engagement, and the index said that Malaysian government agencies were not obliged to give the public a chance to take part in an early stage of environment decision making, and authorities were found as not obligated in making environment and public health information available to the public. So Malaysia, you need to definitely buckle up in terms of your environmental democratic rights. That's all from me today. Thanks for listening to our ASEAN Daily. You can always catch us live at around this time, 8 to 8:44 every morning, Monday to Friday. And of course, you can always listen to our podcast via YouTube and engage with us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And of course, you definitely can listen on the go via your mobile by downloading the TuneIn app and listen to us at Durian ASEAN. Catch me tomorrow, the same time at 8 o'clock on the ASEAN Daily News. Thank you.